the spirit of Minh Quan, gathering national soul, restoring the national essence, opening the national fortune of Vietnam. In recent years, the online community worldwide has been aroused by a slogan, "Make America Great Again," from America to Europe to Asia, from old to young, from the intelligentsia to the commoner. The slogan is everywhere as is spirit. Everyone knows that it is the slogan of Mr. Trump, the former president of the United States, a president who, when he first appeared, was popular in human community. After 4 years in the office of the White House, despite his defeat in the 2020 election, he still became a phenomenon of a contemporary hero. It is funny that the Vietnamese people are very interested in this slogan of Mr. Trump. Many Vietnamese overseas and domestic carry that slogan on the forum to get like or view and earn a living. Trump fans are springing up everywhere. Has anyone asked what the slogan means? Make America Great Again? Mr. Trump is evident. What he cares about is America. The forces of darkness threaten the most powerful country. He warned and urged his people to stand up with him to make a timely change. Hooray, Trump! He is a great and wise patriot of America. However, we are Vietnamese. What do Vietnamese people have with the great America? Of course, the world also enjoys good things when America is great under his rule. But our Vietnam, the communist invaded country in the dark since 1945, still suffers the same bitter fate. Why don't Vietnamese people have a slogan of their own to exhort the struggle? Make Vietnam great. Do Vietnamese people like to follow others? Doesn't Vietnam have any patriotic heroes? Who said it is none? Have you ever heard of this sentence? Regain ancestral land, end populace's suffering, quit communism to remain Viet? Viet never kills Viet, only 16 words, but convey all the secret dreams in the hearts of every Vietnamese. It's simple to understand, so transparent and generous in Vietnamese style. We will join you to learn about the author of this slogan in another program. Here, we will learn it is content to recognize that you see your heart and dreams in it. Episode 1. Regain Ancestral Land. Are there Vietnamese that not know their ancestral land from the reign of King Dong Vong to the time of King Hung? Then when the two Queen Trung drove out the Eastern Han barbarians, from those years BC, Vietland was from the banks of the Yangtze River to the south. The rich land suitable for wet rice agriculture is where Bac Viet people have lived since ancient times. The 100 of family names of Vietnamese people, Bac Viet, represent 100 children of Mother Ao, Father Lac Long Quan. They are hard-working and gentle, filial and benevolent. More specifically, they are theists. Northern barbarians were always a threat to the security and peaceful life of the Bac Viet people. However, because of their peaceful nature, they choose to stay away to keep their peace. Only when being forced to the extreme, heroes in Viet history through Dinh La Tran Le Nguyen dynasty stand up to lead people to the repel foreign invaders. The heroic Vietnamese history of 4,000 years is filled with those dazzling pages. Are there any Vietnamese people who do not know this yet? After World War II, Japan unconditionally surrendered to the Allies, changing the world's political landscape. The Nguyen dynasty of King Bao died during this transition to a constitutional monarchy called the National Government, under the lead of Prime Minister Tran Trong Kim. However, at the moment when his cabinet was introduced to the public, the communist barbarian, the Chinese spy named Ho Chi Minh, who was sent by Mao Zedong, together with his gang, took advantage of the opportunity to seize power. In the language of Viet Cong, on September 2, 1945, the ancestral land of Vietnam, at the time was a S-shaped strip of land from the Nam Quan Gate to Karma Cape, including two archipelagos of Hang Sa and Trong Sa, also robbed by communists in the north. The Democratic Republic of Vietnam, led by Ho Chi Minh, imitated Mao Zedong, carried out the Bloody Land Reform in 1953 to 1956, plundered through the property of the northern compatriots, and launched an invasion of the south. In the south, former Emperor Bao Dai established the Provisional Government, to which France officially returned power in 1949. The former Emperor went to Paris to invite Mr. Ngo Dinh Diem to run the country as Prime Minister. However, on July 20, 1954, France and Ho Chi Minh silently signed the Geneva Agreement, dividing Vietnam in two at parallel of 17, from Hien Long Bridge to the north, belonging to the Communist Vietnam, and south belonged to France. Prime Minister Ngo Dinh Diem ran a country that was full of mourning and separation, facing two foreign invaders, the French and the Vietnamese Communists. In December 1955, he cancelled the previous treaties with France, asked France to cancel the Geneva Agreement, and cut off relations with the Vietnamese Communists. On March 22, 1956, France agreed with the national government of Vietnam to withdraw all French troops from Vietnam. The referendum on October 26, 1955 officially formed the First Republic of Vietnam, led by the President Ngo Dinh Diem. After 9 years in power, he turned the southern part of the Vietnamese motherland into a pearl of the Far East, considered the Asian dragon that friends from all over the world would admire. However, the Vietnamese people are still fooled by the enemy communist, who was too sinister and malicious. From the north, armed by Communist China and Russia, in addition to the violently attacked on the south, Ho Chi Minh also sent people to infiltrate the cabinet of President Ngo Dinh Diem, creating immunity that led to the tragic death of the genius president and his brother. South Vietnam again fell into chaos with internal power struggles. The people fell back into misery until June 19, 1965, the ARVN was established by Lieutenant General Nguyen Van Thu as the Commander-in-Chief, temporarily stabilizing the country. On September 3, 1967, through a public election, the First Republic of Vietnam was transformed into the Second Republic of Vietnam, led by President Nguyen Van Thu. The North Vietnamese Communists, with the weapons support of the international communists of Russia and China, repeatedly attacked across the 17th parallel into the south. The army of the Second Republic of Vietnam ranked 6th in the world, famous for the proud Quang Tri, the heroic Bin Long, and the revolted Com Tam. However, there was no shortage of brilliant and talented generals, brave and resilient soldiers who won all 4 tactical areas in their condition of lacking military equipment and ammunition were forced to lose painfully by the 1973 Paris Agreement. This was when the US Congress completely cut off their aid while the soldier morale wavered. Therefore, to get rid of 200,000 Chinese troops stationed along the Trong Song, which was anxious to conquer the South, President Nixon had to accept and pressure President Nguyen Van Thu to come to the table of the Paris Agreement to restore peace to Vietnam. It was a four-way military conference in which the US only acted as the arbitrator. The Communists cunningly sent two representatives, one from the north and one from the south, who disguised as the people of the South, and the Republic of Vietnam only had one representative. The agreement decided that the parties completely cease fighting, and the US and China withdrew their troops from the Vietnam so that the Vietnamese people could decide their fate by a peaceful general election. However, the North Vietnamese communists turned around and reacted against the Paris Agreement. Together with the South Vietnamese communists on every angle, they attacked and stained soldiers and compatriots with blood from 1972 to 1975. President Vu was forced to resign on April 21, 1975. Empowered Vice President Tran Vong Hung before going to the US. Dong Van Minh was a communist general who took advantage of the opportunity to usurp Vice President Tran Van Hung and announced to surrender of his arms to the North Communist of Vietnam unconditionally on April 30, 1975. All subsequent activities were operated by communist bandits of Vietnam, as they did with the government of Tran Trong Kim in 1945. The so-called Socialist Republic of Vietnam, established after April 30, 1975, was essentially just a bandit party, illegally ruling Vietnam. They did not have a single vote from the people of Vietnam. The communist dictatorship that Ho Chi Minh brought was the bastard son of the atheist, inhuman and deceitful international communist, which was entirely contrary to Vietnamese ideology and tradition. On May 19, 1989, at UNESCO, an earth-shattering event happened. Ho Chi Minh's, the one who brought communism to Vietnam, usurped the power of the Emperor Bao Dai and gave birth to the DRV, which later became the Socialist Republic of Vietnam. The one who was promoted as the idol, the national father of Vietnam, has been proven not Vietnamese. Because it was not possible to show evidence that Ho Chi Minh's fingerprint at the Ba Dinh Mausoleum matched those of Nguyen Ai Quoc, stored at the French department to prove that Ho Chi Minh was Nguyen Ai Quoc. The application to the honor Ho Chi Minh's as a world celebrity of Vietnamese Communist Party was rejected by UNESCO. Since then, historians have begun to delve deeper into the background of Ho Chi Minh's character. The bloody war in Vietnam from 1956 to 1975, waged by Ho Chi Minh, began to be reviewed. It is essentially an invasion in the truest sense of
Vietnam
the word.
Is already
It must
under
be
attack.
said that this is the catastrophic failure of the Vietnamese communists after fully capturing Vietnam in 1975. The communists began to notice a unique figure who defeated them that had just appeared from the Vietnamese community in the US. Mr. Dao Minh Quan, a former lieutenant of the Republic of Vietnam, a young Vietnamese millionaire in California, the owner of Dow Computer Inc., and some other famous businesses in Southern California, such as Pacific Trading and Consulting, Vietnam Business Magazine, Limousine Services. He is the founder and chairman of the Vietnam New People movement, and one of the host committee members of the Republican Party of the United States since 1990. The Chengdu Secret Treaty was signed hurriedly and silently in Sichuan on September 4, 1990, between the Chinese and the Vietnamese communists to implement the 60-year plan of silkworms eating strawberries, to turn Vietnam into a colony of China gradually. Unexpectedly, The plan was discovered neutralized by the existence of the National Government of Vietnam, led by Imperial Duke Dao Minh Quan in California on October 21, 1990. The Vietnam New People movement, led by Mr. Dao Minh Quan, opened up the Democratic Solidarity Congress to establish the Provisional National Government of Vietnam. From that day on, Vietnam restored its polities, succeeding the national government of Emperor Bao Dai to carry out the sacred mission of regain ancestral land. So now we know where this slogan came from and by whom. Yes, Mr. Dao Minh Quan, as soon as he appeared, delivered 2 fatal blows to defeat the conspiracy of Vietnamese communists and international communists. Regain ancestral land is to regain the whole territory that belonged to the Vietnamese people for generations. It has been the nation of Vietnam from the time of Emperor Bao Dai, which is an S-shaped strip of land from the Nam Quan Gate to the Ca Mai Gate, including 2 archipelagos of Hao Sa, Trong Sa in the East Sea, and small islands in the territorial sea of Vietnam. Vietnam Sea, regain ancestral land, is more than just a slogan. That is the policy of righteous and legitimate government founded by 3 generations of Vietnamese people. In the tribulation of the loss of the country, even in the exile in foreign country, they can still gather the spirit and soul of the nation and the strength of Vietnamese people worldwide to reclaim justice and legal right for the country and people of Vietnam. Regain ancestral land is the indomitable and invincible spirit of the Vietnamese nation passed down from thousands of generations. That is the spirit of Dao Minh Quan, the spirit of the true Vietnamese. Dear Imperial Duke and audiences, we will continue to learn about the spirit of Dao Minh Quan through the second content. End populist suffering in the slogan Regain ancestral land. End populist suffering. Quit communism to remain Viet. Viet never kills Viet. In the next show. Thank you for participating in our program. Best regards. See you again.